A couple of days ago, I shared this infrared photo on my monthly newsletter, which caused a lot of questions. In this video, I'm going to answer some of these that relate to colour infrared photography. If it's popular, I'll do a follow-up about post-processing infrared in black and white. Just leave a comment on the video to let me know. The most popular question I was asked was what camera did I use for this shot? Well, it was an Olympus EM5 Mark I that I'd bought and had converted to infrared around 8 years ago. This conversion involved replacing the infrared cut filter that sits over the camera sensor, which is used to remove the infrared light. A replacement filter is then fitted to the sensor, which cuts out visible light but allows infrared light through. These infrared filters have numbers which indicate what wavelength of light they block. So a 720nm filter, which is well into the infrared spectrum, blocks light with a wavelength of less than 720nm. The infrared cameras that I now use have 665nm filters fitted, which seems to work great for both colour and black and white infrared. If you want to know more in general about infrared photography, I have an article on my website, which I'll link to in the YouTube video information. The next question that comes up a lot is, do I need to set the camera white balance? The answer to that is no. You can still shoot infrared with your camera set to auto white balance. But you will find that the images don't look great on the camera screen. I usually take a photo of grass in midday light and then use that to set the camera's custom white balance. This allows you to see a more accurate preview of the scene rather than everything being discoloured. But setting a white balance in the camera doesn't mean that that's what you'll see when you come to process the RAW file. Look what happens to this image when I take the RAW file into the Lightroom Develop module. It now has a strong red colour cast. The reason this happens is that the white balance settings in Lightroom can't handle the values needed to match the camera's white balance. You can see here that the temp slider is at its minimum but still needs to move further to the left. Incidentally, if you're wondering what a regular daylight white balance setting produces, here's an example. As you can see, the custom white balance setting from the camera does make a big difference, even if it's beyond the limits of Lightroom. In the past, I've handled this problem by creating a custom camera profile for my infrared cameras. You can still do this, but it's become more difficult because Adobe has retired their camera profile editor. Which brings us on to the next question. How do I create camera profiles for colour infrared photography? Well, the answer to that is I don't anymore because I've found an easier alternative. Here's an image that I opened in Lightroom using the default Adobe Color camera profile. This is typical of how most people have Lightroom set up. Having processed the RAW file in Lightroom, I'll open the image in Photoshop. I can then convert the image to a smart object using the Photoshop filter menu. Next, I apply the camera raw filter to the smart object. When this opens, you can see that the temp and tint sliders are now back to their centered default position. This means that we can drag them to the left to remove the red color cast. The other option, which is even easier, is to click the white balance tool. Now I can click on any area that I want to use to set the white balance. Which brings us on to the next question, which is where should I place my white balance? The rather confusing answer to this is anywhere. That's because with colour infrared photography, you're only using the white balance to separate areas of the scene. Infrared light doesn't have a colour because we can't see it. What you're seeing here is false colour that we've created. If we look at this image, we see three distinct areas. There is the ground, the tree trunks and the foliage on the trees. By clicking on any of these, we can use them to set the white balance, which creates colours in the other areas. When I click on the ground, it sends the leaves and tree trunks a blue-green colour. When I click on the foliage, it neutralises that, but sends the trees and ground red. Then if I sample the tree trunk, it neutralises that, which creates a colour in the leaves and on the ground. This is probably the look that I like best with this image, so I'll work with that. The next question is, why aren't there any strong colours in an infrared image? The answer to that, as we've already mentioned, is that infrared light doesn't have colour in the way that we understand it. The colours you see in the image are false colours that are created by the white balance. What I think this question is really asking is, how do I make the colours in the image stronger? I've found a good method after setting the white balance is to use the controls in the calibration tab. First set the 3 saturation sliders, which makes the colours stronger. Then use the hue sliders to adjust the colour we see. For example, the red primary hue makes the ground appear orange or purple. And if you find one of the colours too strong, like the green in this image, we can reduce the saturation. When you're happy, click the OK button to apply the settings and close the raw filter. If I then hide the smart filter, you can see the difference our white balance adjustment makes. And because this is a smart filter, we can reopen it to adjust the settings if we need to. But there's another simple technique we can use to improve the colours even further. All we need to do is add a levels adjustment layer to the image, then select the red colour channel. Now we can move the black level to meet the start of the histogram, and then do the same with the white level. Next, switch to the green channel and do the same with the black and white levels. And finally, switch to the blue channel and repeat the process. You can also move the center level on a colour channel, left to increase that colour or right to reduce it. Now for something that's often asked, which is, how do I channel swap and can I use Lightroom for this? Let's deal with the question of Lightroom first. Whilst you can change the colours of the infrared image using the HSL panel, it's not really a channel swap. To make a channel swap, we need to use the channel mixer in Photoshop. I'll add a channel mixer layer to this image to show you how it's done. First select the red colour channel where you can see the red slider is at 100% and the other colour sliders are at 0%. The way that the channel swap works is that we'll change the colour of the red channel to be blue and the blue colour channel to be red. To do this, move the red slider to 0% and the blue slider to 100%. Then we can change to the blue channel and repeat the process. This time, make the blue channel 0% and the red channel 100%. This causes the red of the photo to turn blue and the blues to turn red. There's nothing magical about a channel swap, it's just replacing one colour with another, and so it's entirely optional. Now earlier in the video, I mentioned I could use different camera profiles in Lightroom to avoid the red colour cast. If you'd like to see that in practice, as well as how I used to process infrared photography, watch this video next. Thanks for watching today, and I hope you found this useful. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and please leave a comment. I'll see you soon for another video.